You're watching Screen Junkies News from San Diego Comic-Con. Presented by T-Mobile, America's best unlimited network.
Hello and welcome back to Screen Junkies, our Comic-Con 2017 coverage. I'm DJ Wooldridge. Sitting here with me is David Leitch, director of the best action movies out now. John Wick, Atomic Blonde coming out soon, Deadpool 2.
Yes, we're working on it right now.
How does it feel? How do you feel right now? This second, how do you feel?
I feel great.
Yeah.
Like being in Comic-Con, I feel like there's a lot of our core demographic of fans that sort of love the genre movies.
Yeah.
And so it's really good to be around them and like actually promoting Atomic Blonde, which comes out July 28th. And we're like fired up about it. So.
It looks amazing. It's totally badass. I've got to ask you, who do you think would win in a fight? Lorraine from Atomic Blonde, John Wick, or Deadpool?
I think it would be. I mean, it's hard to say because they're kind of all indestructible. I guess.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
I think, it says something about our choreography, I guess, that our villains take a beating, but they keep coming back. So they're all sort of virtually indestructible if you watch the movies. So yeah. I couldn't.
You're not gonna.
I couldn't pick one. I couldn't pick one. How can I pick one?
I'm asking you to pick one of your kids and say which one do you think would kill the other ones. That's all.
I love them all equally. They're all God's children. They're all God's children.
So, what do you think makes a killer action sequence? Really makes an action sequence pop off the screen?
A couple things. I mean, I think the biggest thing that people, don't realize is that a good action scene is actually one that's moving the character forward. Where you're really learning about the character. Sometimes the choreography might not be that much different, but it might be at the perfect point in the story, or it might present a problem to that character that transforms them within the story that it becomes that compelling. I think in Atomic in particular, there's a sequence in the movie where she fights the Russians in the stairwell, and the choreography in itself is like pretty simplistic, but it's the fact that it's her character's journey at this moment that makes it all that more compelling, and the stakes are high in the story, and it leads for better drama.
I love that answer because having the action inform the story just makes all the sense in the world.
And I am like a sucker for just great spectacle or a really rad martial art fight in a Hong Kong film, or but there's something when you connect to a character and there are stakes. That the sequence is 10 times better.
That's amazing. So Charlize Theron plays the main character in Atomic Blonde, Lorraine. What makes her the next great action character?
Well, I mean, I think that it's not sort of some of the things we touched on before. I mean, she's fun to watch from the spectacle standpoint, but she creates a compelling character, a mysterious character that you want to go on a journey with. And you can have action stars that can do great fight scenes, but they can't create like nuanced, complex characters that you give a shit about. And so, in Atomic Blonde, we were fortunate enough to set her up in a compelling way, and she delivered this nuanced performance, and the action just sort of, is icing on the cake for this sort of complexity of her sort of existential crisis as a spy.
Amazing. So, can you talk a little bit more about her existential crisis as a spy?
Yeah. I think, when it is sort of, there's a darkness to the film, or there's a pop sensibility to the film at the beginning, and you sort of get sucked into this sort of fun Berlin world of like crazy characters like McAvoy's character, but no one is telling the truth. And you start to realize that there's no way as a spy to have sort of intimacy, or there's no one you can really trust, and there's no way for your honestly to be truthful with yourself. And so you see it in flashes in the movie. Charlize brings this sort of humanity to sort of what would normally just be an icy sort of flat spy character, like a Terminator. And that's the crisis that she's in. You open up the movie and she's broken and bruised in a tub, and there's the death of one of her fellow spies, and you're like, is she complicit? Is she not? Did she know the guy? Is it a lover? Is it a friend?
Yeah.
And you're just like, maybe it's all of those things. That's what the spy is. There's no truth.
Yeah.
You know, you can't be honest with anybody.
So we've talked a lot about Charlize's ability as an actress, but she was heavily involved in her stunts and her action sequences. How many different ways could she hurt me if she wanted to?
A lot. With her words. With her words.
With her words?
Yes,
okay.
Most importantly,
Yeah.
with her words.
What's hurt the most?
She's they do.
Yeah,
they
they
hurt
cut,
inside.
man.
They do to the bone.
Yeah.
Look, she's an athlete, and you know she had to learn martial arts for the film. So, she might say no, she couldn't hurt you, but you wouldn't want to be in the way of one of those elbows or knees. Like, trust me, you wouldn't want to be in the path of that. It would hurt.
I do trust you. I trust you. Yeah.
It would hurt.
Do you think with Atomic Blonde coming out and Wonder Woman and then Charlize's role in Fury Road, do you think like now is the time for women in action?
I hope so. I mean, I think it's far past due.
Yeah.
You know, there are, you know, so we had like Kate Beckinsale doing it and Mila doing it in the Resident Evil series, but it was like super far genre.
Yeah.
And now we're finding a little bit more mainstream accessible stuff for females that I think it's way past due, and I hope that the success of Wonder Woman can drive, you know, obviously maybe people to our film.
Yeah.
And that will, you know, the business of the box office will allow the studios to make more female action fare.
A lot of your action sequences are practical. Do you think there's something that practicality adds over like CGI? What's the balance of CGI and practical in the action arena?
Well, I think that's what was refreshing, what, you know, Chad and I did with John Wick, and it was sort of it was for us, it was a cathartic experiments of like being second unit directors for so long and like having to work in the CG world and like, we'll just shoot it on green screen. We'll just put a digital double in there. We'll just, you know, you're constant with those big visual effects budgets, you're making compromises. And then we're just like, we didn't have the money.
Yeah.
We're going to make it hard boiled. We're going to make a genre film and go back to the roots of stunts and see physical action. And that's, people are like, that looks so real, and you're like, yeah, it was real.
It was
because they're so desensitized to what's real, because everything's altered or, you know, tweaked in post. Yeah. And now it's like, no, we just want you to see a raw fight scene and not over edit it or add special effects.
Well, as a fan of your work, I can tell you, you feel it when you watch those movies. Like, it feels like everybody's getting hurt. And you're like, oh, everybody's okay when they said cut. Is that going to carry over into Deadpool? Because that is a movie where you have the money, but are you going to try and keep it more grounded and practical?
I think that, you know, as a filmmaker, I'll always have my own imprint on whatever project I go to. Yeah. The thing about Deadpool is that it has its own DNA as well, and it was so successful as a brand and as a world. And so I want to make sure that we're really true to that, and everything we're doing is that we're really true to the original. But there'll be elements of, you know, there'll be the fingerprints of me as a filmmaker, and there'll be some grounded stuff, and there'll be some heightened stuff, and there'll be fun CG sequences that were inspired by the original. So you're going to get a little bit of both, which I think is great for a sequel, to have just the same heart and DNA, but a little bit of flavor.
That sounds great. As a comic book fan, I have to ask you, are you going to streamline Cable's incredibly complicated backstory, or are you going to make a joke out of how just ridiculously complicated it is?
Well, you know, the thing is, like, in the Deadpool universe, you could take the cop out and make the joke. But I don't, you know, Deadpool's backstory is actually it's complicated, and they don't overly explain it in the first movie. I think that we have a really good approach to like rolling out like his powers and his story, and you know, maybe you don't need to see it all in the first movie. Maybe he doesn't make it through the first movie. Maybe you don't. You know, there's a lot of things that could happen in that.
I can't wait. I can't wait to see how that all
you can't
plays out.
I'm just saying, like, I think it's Deadpool the movie has its own sort of way that it approaches the lore, and like it's actually, it can, you don't need it all up front. You know, there's a whole canon of comic book sort of lore on cable.
Yeah.
You can't all fit it all in one movie anyway. So we're gonna find the things that work for the narrative, and then the character, and then we'll move forward from there.
Amazing. So with Atomic Blonde focusing on a female action hero, is that informing your work with Domino in Deadpool 2 as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's things that we learn. I mean, Domino's been definitely put into the process of like what we've done with all the actors that we work with in Fight World, right? So she's been put sort of into the 8711 stunt mill, and like we're working on choreography, we're training, and you know we're trying to give her all the resources we can to make her a badass character physically. Yeah.
So with your work in stunts in the past, how has that informed your directing? Is part of that knowing that you need to put your actors through this rigorous regimen to get them to look as badass as possible? What things came from your history with stunt work?
Well, I think that's a great observation, because I think, you know, a lot of times productions didn't want to spend the time to train the actors, and you would just use the movie cheats of editing or special effects or stunt doubles like myself, and then just shoot the close-up of the actor. But there was this little movie that called The Matrix, where they brought in this Hong Kong choreography team, and we saw them train the actors for 3 months, and then all of a sudden the camera were on like Lawrence Fishburne and Keanu Reeves doing this incredible fight scene. We'd never seen it before, because it's like, holy crap, they're doing the moves. That's where, you know, Chad and I ran with the idea of like, we need to like take that to the mainstream as much as possible, and so we've always approached it that way, and I think that that's why John Wick is compelling, Atomic Blonde is compelling. I want to keep the actors in the action as much as possible, and not break the illusion of the character, and fortunately I've been working with great actors that want to do it too.
Amazing. So is there an action franchise that you're like, get my hands on? I just want it. I could do so many great things with it. Is like a big one that like maybe from your youth that you're like, I want to tackle that?
There are a few, but I'm holding. I'm gonna hold that soundbite.
Okay. You can't give me anything. Just
no. I think that'll be coming soon.
Oh, really?
So
well, I look forward to it. Last question.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're doing amazing work in action. Would you ever consider jumping outside of that genre and doing something that's not action-oriented?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Although I think action could play a part in all different genres. Like you can actually sprinkle it into anything. I think that's the fun thing about film, and that, you know, what we tried to do with Atomic is like, it is sort of this stuffy noir, and then we added a bunch of action, and it became kind of its own thing. I would totally be happy if I responded to the material and I thought I could tell the story in a compelling way to just attack anything that responds to me. As a filmmaker, it's the same. You're using the same set of tools. You're telling a story visually, you're judging performance, and you're carving out a story in post. So yeah, I would absolutely. As much as I love genre cinema and action, I do love art house films, and, you know, part of me would be happy to do like a $10 million sort of noir. Yeah.
Well, your love of cinema shows in your work. You're killing it. Keep up with the badass movies. Atomic Blonde comes out next week.
Yes.
July 28th.
Please see it.
Just fill up, take your friends, get a bus, go to see Atomic Blonde.
Yes.
Thank you for taking the time and sitting with us out of a busy Comic-Con schedule. Is there something you're excited to go see? You're going to go someplace on the floor?
I've already been sort of, looping around. I've seen a lot of Deadpools out there.
That's David Leitch. I'm DJ Woldridge. This has been Screen Junkies. Thank you guys for joining us. I hope you're having a great Comic-Con experience, and we'll see you more next time.
This episode was presented by T-Mobile, America's best unlimited network.